Good. I think the format for today is that we've got both myself and Steph have got slideshow, panel, presentation, however you want to phrase it. We'll run through and then we'll do a Q&A at the end.
Okay, all right.
That's
I'll
fine.
wait. I'll wait for you.
Excellent.
Thank
Cheers,
you.
Stephen.
Thank you, Stephanie.
Should we get started?
Yeah, let's do it. Good afternoon. I'm by way of introduction, I'm Mike. I'm one of the senior campaign associates at Seedrs, focusing on sustainability businesses and food and beverage businesses. And I'll be representing Seedrs from the perspective of demystifying raising capital through the crowd on our platform. And I'm joined today by Steph, if you want to introduce yourself.
Yeah, hi everyone, I'm Steph. I am Operations Director here at ISQ Crowdfunding, and we support businesses who are looking to raise investment on Seedrs, getting them platform ready.
Platform ready indeed. Excellent. So I'm going to go first. So I've got a standard presentation that I give, usually in person, so it's a bit more aided in that direction. But it will run through what is crowdfunding, why do businesses do it, and how do we do it as well, what to look out for. Can someone just confirm that they can see the presentation for me, Steph?
Yeah, all good.
Awesome, cool. So equity crowdfunding 101 is how we look at it. So to start with, what is equity crowdfunding? We've got a relatively helpful quote from Forbes. So in essence, equity crowdfunding is raising capital from the crowd through the sale of securities in a private company, i.e. not listed on stock exchanges. I think the important thing to make clear at this point is what crowdfunding isn't as well. Crowdfunding isn't Indiegogo, it isn't Kickstarter, or equity crowdfunding isn't rather. In the investment here is in exchange for shares and not for prior access to or further development of a product or of a business. Why crowdfund? I think really important message from 2022 is that the sector, the investment market was difficult. We're all aware that VC investment was down, angel investment was down. Crowdfunding was a surprise performer. What we can see from 2022 on the graph included from Bohurst, an independent source, is that Seedrs and our main competitor Crowdcube were the most active investors by a long way in 2022. This is predominantly due to the strength of businesses raising from the crowd. The access to capital from a non-traditional source allows us to be a bit more confident in downtimes than some of the more traditional players who would sit on their capital perhaps and wait for things to improve. So businesses throughout a difficult 2022 were still keen, and we've seen that continue into the first quarter of 2023 as well. So why do businesses use crowdfunding? 5 main reasons. The first of which is quite obvious: access to money, access to capital. Validation as well is the second point. So this is viewed as either validation from their customer base, from fans, from users, or from the royal crowd, so seen as investors. This is predominantly most important when looking at future rounds. So if a business raises successfully on a crowdfunding platform on Seedrs, they can point in the future to getting X hundred, X thousand of customers in to invest and validate the product in the business, as well as the capital raised. It's a very public facing mechanism, and as a result you can use it moving forwards, which ties nicely into the exposure and marketing element of a crowdfund. Very public facing, as I've said, so it's an opportunity not just to raise capital but also to shout about the campaign whilst it's ongoing, and also the success you have afterwards as well. It's a useful point to look back on, and we've seen this from some of our big successes in the past. The likes of this, for example, will often reference their successful crowdfunding campaign when they are talking to or pushing out to their customers as well. Community engagement, again, really important, particularly right now, where we see businesses that are fighting for market share, or they're looking to launch a product line that is in a saturated market. Being able to engage the community that you've worked so hard to build is particularly important right now, and made easier or made, I guess, more effective by the ability to turn those customers, turn the community that you've worked so hard to develop into investors as well. So we often find that customers become considerably more sticky once they're both customers and investors. And the last element of why businesses use crowdfunding is the speed. So I'll talk to timelines and standard process slightly further down the presentation, but we remain one of the fastest ways to raise capital. As a result, 1 in 3 seed stage companies choose crowdfunding, according to Bohurst. I think that's probably slightly increased now as well, following 2022's final numbers. So into the how. So how to successfully crowdfund. At Seedrs particularly, how we like to break crowdfunding down, or the mechanics of is to think of it as in the 3 pillars. So these are the 3 tranches of capital that will be combined to reach 100%, and often, well, most of the time, more than that target. Dive into these in a bit more detail, but just to introduce them briefly, we have the pre-committed element, or the private network, personal network of a business, the business community, and then the Seedrs investor base. What we're trying to do with any crowdfund is stack these 3 portions together to create not just more capital and more investors, but also to keep momentum high, raise validation for the later pools as they get further and further away from knowledge of the business. Let's talk to these in a bit more detail. So we have the first pillar, the private network. This is your friends, your family, personal network. So ex-colleagues, people that might be aware of the problem that you provide the solution for, friends of the business. We see a lot of investment from suppliers, for example, or businesses that are in similar space, and the founders of those businesses. Events are back in a big way post-pandemic. We've seen a lot of action from people that have managed to build quick and good connections in person. We can reflect that in the online campaign as well. Angel investors are a standard element of the cornerstone, or the private network portion, pillar 1, that we like to activate as well. And then the last, of course, industry experts, strategic investors, whether that be VC, family office, whatever it is. So our aim here is to bring a chunk together of capital to act as the lead towards the campaign, to set the price, set the valuation, set the terms of the round, which we then share out to the business community and the Seedrs investors. Pillar 2, building a community. So this is where we are looking to engage people that are aware of the business, but not necessarily aware of the founders. So the customers or the fans or the followers. The way we do this is through a pre-launch feedback cycle. So put simply, this is often the form of kind of cryptic marketing of something exciting is coming, followed by we are crowdfunding to the fans, to the followers, essentially to the mailing list of a business, plus their social media following as well, if they are heavily D2C focused. So like I say, what we want to do is we want to make sure that the businesses we're working with have got, as a general rule, some kind of email newsletter, some kind of channel that they can push out updates about not only the fact that the campaign is coming, but also the stages and updates for performance within the campaign as well during the live element. A last point here is that a lot of businesses will use loyalty schemes and rewards as a kind of reward for investing in the campaign. We term these investor perks, and they go from the kind of exciting experiential trip to our vineyard, or personalizing names of beer, for example, through to the kind of standard merch that businesses put out. We see a hell of a lot of coffee cups and water bottles, but all very, very important, and one more thing to entice in businesses community to become investors. Pillar 3. So this is the value add from Seedrs that's kind of most sought over after from a capital perspective. This is Seedrs 700,000, 800,000 users, and how do we appeal to the retail investor on the platform that is looking for an opportunity to invest in a business, invest in a startup, but hasn't heard of the business in question directly before. So we break down the Seedrs investor, the retail investor, once again into 3 areas. They think with their head, they think with their heart, and then they're looking for something that excites them, give them that the thrill or the dopamine rush. So the head relates to business fundamentals, i.e., who else is involved, which angels have come in, which strategics are interested, is the valuation good, what kind of performance have they got in terms of traction on revenue, on followers, growth plans, the kind of core fundamentals that perhaps a sophisticated or professional investor would look for. The heart is generally related to, does the business do good? So are they climate negative? Are they helping people more directly? What's the tugging on the heartstrings that the business or the campaign narrative can create? And then your thrill factor comes down to, is this a 1000x opportunity? Is it super topical? So for example, we've had a hell of a lot in the plant-based food sector in the past 12 24 months. Prior to that, we had a big crypto boom. What is in the kind of zeitgeist at the moment that the business relates to, and as a result our relatively sophisticated retail investors are aware of. So another good example would be, we've performed incredibly well in climate tech and clean energy in the last 12 24 months, and that's a reflection of the wider macro change in investment in the UK into clean tech or climate focused businesses. Just to quickly talk to the process and the timings of obviously this campaign. So we generally say that it takes on average 3.5 months to spin up a run and close a campaign. Again, we break this down into 3 sections. We have the campaign preparation phase. So this is where we will work with the business to develop a marketing strategy, to get some of their community, some of their network to pre-register, so that on release we have an immediate jump, an immediate move for momentum into the campaign. Campaign documents will be submitted and then approved by Seedrs. That process takes on average 3 to 4 weeks. We've done it in as little as 2 weeks, and sometimes it can go on for 6 to 8 based on any kind of set points that the founder wants to reach. So maybe they've got a big piece of PR coming up and they want to be live for that, or things have picked up dramatically in the business, so we've had to slow down. From there we move to campaign execution. So this is the 30 days where a business is live on the platform. This is the kind of the really fun, exciting part, watching investors come in, seeing the impact that the campaign is having, and we have the 30-day period where most businesses will fund to their 100% target within 16 days. However, as a platform, we get something like 400,000, 500,000 views per month on the homepage. So the vast majority of businesses, whether they be B2C or B2B, will keep their campaign up unless they have a cutoff or a maximum allocation, in order to get not only the long tail of investment, but also that exposure, that brand awareness into the wider community as well. The last phase is closing and growth. So funding takes on average 3 weeks. So closing takes on average 3 weeks. We have the FCA's mandated 1 week calling off period for investors, and then we've got roughly a 2-week process to close. From there, following success, we move into our growth services. So this is our secondary market offering and our portfolio care as well. So most businesses will come back to Seedrs to raise again, just over 50%. And that's where we move from being in the primary phase with the new business team like myself, and into the portfolio team, the alumni as well. What makes a business suitable for the crowd? So I want to be very clear on this slide. It's not my favorite one because it implies that we need to have all of these things. That's not the case. What we're looking for is a couple of these main points in order to be able to think, actually, this could potentially be a success. Crowdfunding is sector agnostic, to be very, very clear. As long as we have a business that hits a couple of these core elements, then we're able to discuss potentially running a crowdfunding campaign. So the first of these is impact driven. This is really important. Most businesses nowadays that we see on the platform have got some kind of positive impact messaging to them, some kind of operational procedure that is beneficial in some way, in either to helping their customers, helping the planet, or helping people more generally. Consumer has been the key of crowdfunding traditionally. that hasn't decreased, but we've become more able in the past 2 years, 3 years to raise the B2B businesses, particularly, like I mentioned earlier, the clean energy space. But being a consumer brand does lend itself towards the next point, which is community at the core. A business that has a focus on managing its community from day one and building that community will find themselves in a position to, frankly, access more investors during a crowdfunding campaign. So important if crowdfunding is something that you're considering for your businesses, to make sure that from the beginning you're thinking about engaging the community, about what can you do to keep them abreast of changes in the business, positive developments, pivots, whatever it is, but making sure they remain as engaged as possible, so that when the time comes and you want to launch a crowdfund, they're already engaged. We don't have to start from scratch and getting them to care about the business beyond the service or the product provided. Next, emerging sector. This ties into kind of the topicality piece I was talking about. What excites our Seedrs investors. Obviously a difficult one. What we see here is that businesses that are kind of on the front edge of whatever it is. So in the pandemic, we had a hell of a lot of food delivery businesses, for example. That was a rapidly growing emerging sector. They performed very, very well for the beginning of that. We do, however, start to see some saturation towards the back end of that excitement, that hype phase. So we've got to manage that quite carefully. Rapidly growing market kind of ties into emerging sector as well. So what does a successful round look like? I've used an example of Gazelle Wind Power here. Really, really successful, really interesting B2B operation here. So what we have with Gazelle Wind Power, they turned up to us wanting to raise a large amount of capital with no community. They're a B2B floating offshore wind platform. So no traditional crowd of their own to access, but belief in the Seedrs crowd, the Seedrs retail investor, that they would be able to generate enough capital to make it a success. They're also very early in their life cycle. So they essentially turned up with a drawing of a floating wind turbine and said, look, we want to build these. We need to raise some capital to do so. Can we do that through the crowd? We're more than happy to look at it. Believe that it had all the parameters we wanted for success. So rapidly growing sector, yeah, clean power, impact driven, yeah, 100% clean energy. No community, none of their own community rather. So that was the unknown, but we were confident enough that the other points would be enough to move it through. As a result, we managed to raise just under 3.9 million euros for them from 1,400 investors. So a fantastic success. Also interesting about Gazelle Wind Power is they raised a pre-money valuation of nearly 55 million euros. This is very high for the platform, so there was a concern there, but our investors were sophisticated, our retail investors were sophisticated enough to realize that is what a clean power, an offshore wind turbine business is going to be valued at. A lot of assets involved, it's very heavy work. So as a result, it wasn't going to have the very attractive valuation that we often see, kind of the 3 to 12 million range. But it was still an incredibly attractive proposition to our retail investors. On the other side of this, we've got Right Charge. So much earlier in, also much smaller round size. So they were targeting to raise, I think it was roughly 300,000. They had a community in the order of 30,000 odd customers, looking to engage that community, take the customers that already were massive fans of the service they provide, which is electric car charging tariff essentially, and we're able to engage that community through really successful, attractive marketing proposition off the back of the work they'd already been doing with customer care to keep their customers engaged through the beginning of the business. So again, managed to get over 200% funded. Huge success for those guys at a much smaller valuation. So 7.5 million pre-money, which they managed to raise, like I say, 730k. So another huge success at a very different offering, a very different round size as well. So two good examples of businesses that have delivered well with different aims and with different business communities and structures behind them, but both of which would and do say that they enjoyed real success and hopefully come back again, Right Charge, because they'll have. I'm keen to get Right Charge back on. I'll give you another picture of some of our successes so far, a bit of confidence on breadth of industry that we support. So you'll see Revolut on there, probably our biggest name to date, Gazelle, who we just discussed, All Plants, this, Lick as well, Chapel Down, the English wine company. So a mixture of food and bev, clean power, fintech, some consumer goods as well. So the message we're trying to get across here, these are some big names. They've all got different backstories, they've all got different sectors, but they've all managed to make a big success of crowdfunding, and particularly with this group, they'd all say very positive things about their experience as well. I do have a group task here. Like I say, generally I deliver this in person and we're able to work through it. So rather than get people to shout out or to answer through, what I've done is I've got this slide and then I'll reveal kind of how we judge it on the back end of things as well. What I'm asking for people to have a think about as we discuss this is, of these three businesses, which of these seems best for a crowdfunding campaign, considering what we've just discussed, what I've just made clear. So thinking about what is it that retail investors look for, what are the three pillars, how do you think the strength is, what would appeal to you as a retail investor as well, or as an investor full stop. And then I'll give you a minute or so to think about them once I've talked them through, and then I'll reveal the answers on the next slide. So business one, we have a consumer fintech, pre-revenue with a wait list of 500 users. The founding team, ex-Barclays Digital, so ex-digital bankers, with a valuation of 10 million, a raised target of 500k, and lead or external investment of 250k committed to the round. Business two, we have a college social app. So I guess think like something that people would use for either schoolwork sharing or for updates on a university campus, something of that ilk. Revenues of 2,500 monthly recurring, 15,000 users already signed up and using the app. Founding team, digital marketers, valuation of 5 million, a raised target of 1 million, and an external investment of 500,000. And the last one is a clean energy B2B. Again, pre-revenue, but with 3 clients signed for potential future revenue. Founding team are industry veterans of clean energy generation. A valuation of 20 million, a raised target of 2.5 million, and an external investment of 1 million. I'll give you all kind of a minute to kind of think through which you think would be the easiest or the most successful, to run through the crowd and order them down. We can discuss this further in the Q&A as well, or after I finished my section of the presentation. So remember, for this section, we want to be thinking about kind of how strong do the 3 pillars look, what would you most like to invest in, and what would you look out for of the information provided if you were looking into a business. Hopefully everyone's had a chance to think about that now. Like I say, I usually do this in person, so it's a bit easier to tell where where people have got to, and to reveal what we think. We rank these as probably the easiest would be the consumer fintech, then the clean energy B2B, and then lastly would be the college social app. To talk through the reasoning here, the consumer fintech is actually a direct case study that we've had before, a business called Pennyworth. They came to us off the back of almost really just coming up with the idea and building the platform. A wait list of just 500 users seems very, very small, but they were mostly people that already knew the founding team, the ex-Barclays Digital team. So these were people that were either very clued into the space or knew a lot about the business. They were very committed to it. The valuation is quite high here. 10 million for a pre-revenue business was one of our main concerns, but they were targeting a small amount, 500k, and they already had an external investment of 250k close that gap significantly as well. As a result, we thought that would be the most successful, because those guys in actuality raised something like 800K. They massively overperformed off what was expected. The second easiest, or the second most clear cut from our perspective, is the clean energy B2B. Again, pre-revenue here, which is usually a concern. We want to have some traction to show to businesses that are raising to investors for our businesses that are on the platform. But there are 3 clients signed, so there's future revenue to come. The founding team of industry veterans likely have good connections. They've likely got large pools of contacts that they could let know about the raise. Even though it's a B2B business, they've probably got extended over academic circles or industry circles that they can speak to and make aware of the opportunity to invest. Very high valuation, 20 million, but we talked about this with Gazelle as an example. That's kind of where these businesses sit. The reason that this one is slightly less or more difficult, I should say, to have as number one is that the raise target of 2.5 million with an external investment point of 1 million means it's quite a big gap, quite a large amount of work to be done in order to fill that round out from the crowd, although most likely doable. And then in last place, this is where people usually get a bit tripped up. We have the college social app, so already making revenue, which is great. 15,000 users seems like a hell of a lot to do a crowd round with a founding team of digital marketers. A good valuation of 5 million, a raise target of 1 million, external investment of 500K. The reason that this one falls down is kind of the beauty of the likely demographic of their user base. So if it's a college social app, we'd need to know how many of the people that were using the app were actually able to invest. Are they all over 18? Are they all aware of private investment? Are they likely to have disposable income to invest? So whilst it's a big user base, it's probably not as clear cut as being able to convert all of them. Also, probably not as into the zeitgeist of our investor base, of the Seedrs users. Whilst they may have maybe aware of the strength of the sector, they're not going to be as immediately interested in a college social app as they would be a fintech or a clean energy B2B business. And that's my section of the campaign of the presentation covered off. I'll just stop sharing my screen for now. So I can hand over to Steph to do her piece, if that's all right.
Yeah, lovely. Thanks for that, Mike. Yeah, really interesting. So I will just set up my screen share now. Oh, come on. Why is it in the middle of a webinar, your internet decides it wants to go slow?
So it's always the way, always the way.
Come on.
Do you want me to share?
That's right, it's just loading.
Excellent.
Okay, can you see that? Hopefully.
Yeah.
That's coming through. Wonderful. So yes, I'm doing this little bit on hear it from your peers. What I wish I knew before I crowdfunded, top tips from successful campaigns. So I sent a little email out to a few of our successful clients a week or so ago in preparation for this webinar. And a few of them got back to me, which is lovely. I'm always pleasantly surprised by how people are happy to share their experience with the crowdfunding and their top tips, which is really nice. So I've pulled all this together for you guys. Oops, go back. Here we go. So first one is from Ben Taylor. He's the co-founder of a business called Rome, who crowdfunded on Seedrs back in October 2022. They started off wanting to raise 1.7 mil, ended up overfunding to just over 1.83, which is really good. Ben's top tips. So he said that finding a strong cornerstone investor, I touch the mouse and it all goes bit wonky here. So finding a strong cornerstone investor that will install confidence in the rest of the crowd is one of his top tips, as well as cast your net far and wide. The bigger the crowd, the better, which kind of echoes what Mike was saying earlier. Always be front of mind with the crowd and shamelessly over communicate. So this brings home the message around marketing and how important marketing is in a crowdfunding campaign. Next, Adam, he's CEO of Just Fix. They raised just shy of 200% on Seedrs back in summer last year. And I think, Mike, you might know, I think they're coming back for another round as well soon, if not already. So he highlighted,
so.
Yeah, so he highlighted marketing as well. It's really important. The marketing throughout the campaign is absolutely key to getting the most from the crowd. And also being prepared to have content prepared for regular updates, PR, and social to help build momentum. And during the live phase of the campaign, your time is very stretched. It's quite full on. So make sure you have cleared your diary and done all the prep prior to going live. Next, Jeff Turrell. So he's the co-founder of a company called CarCloud. They raised a couple of years ago now, back in September 2021, raising 683K from 369 investors. They had a really positive campaign. He was actually really a lovely client to work with. He was very diligent and worked through our process very well. But he learned a lot from his experience of crowdfunding, and he shared that whilst he does understand that the process of crowdfunding delivers a lot more than just financial fuel. So it's not just about the money, of course. He said it's like taking a very early stage company to the gym, which I found quite amusing. Some mornings you just don't want to do it, but you're always a little bit better for it. And ISQ, thus was the personal trainer. Funny, I've been compared, mostly I get compared to teachers. I don't think I've ever been compared to a personal trainer before, so that's quite amusing. Many of the business principles and communication themes that we lean on now were forged in the heat of our summer 2021 crowdfunding campaign. That it also says that a no is so much more valuable than a polite maybe. So this is in terms of investor outreach when you're starting talking to people, trying to secure that all-important lead investment. Obviously, not everybody that you speak to comes back and says yes straight away. You do get a lot of no's, but that is important. You know, it is useful to get a no because you can learn quite a lot from that. Jeff said the no is more likely to give you the constructive feedback to sharpen the proposition and the pitch. The no is also much more likely to put you in touch with someone that they feel might be a better fit. As a result, a no can be the start of an amazingly positive referral network. So I guess the point here is don't get disheartened if you get a no from an investor. It can be a good thing. Next, we've got Ed Bolgy, who's the founder of Bird, who raised on Seedrs again a couple of years back, just shy of 200% from 135K target. Quite interesting, actually. Ed is a really good case study on how when you're securing lead investment is not necessarily, don't think of it just as having one lead investor. It could be lead investment in general. And I think the basis of their lead investment came from a handful of medium-sized investors. It wasn't just one big ticket, but it was mainly from people that they knew. So he says at least 80% of our raise came from people that they knew, and working with Seedrs gave them all a focus and legitimacy to invest. We had the good problem of being almost immediately in overfunding, but it meant that we hadn't prepared the marketing materials to talk about, for example, reaching milestones like 150% or 200%, etc. So he said that they should have had more stuff pre-prepared, which echoes what somebody said earlier as well. That's a common theme. We had raised all that we believe we needed after 12 days. Very good problem to have. And we were then not quite sure whether to hold out for more cash or to get back to doing the more important work of building the company, of course. They said we should have had a clearer success criteria of what we would do given certain circumstances. And I think that's really important because it's really easy to go live on Seedrs and think that you're going to go the distance and go for the full 30 days. But sometimes it might actually be a benefit to close the campaign early and kind of ride on that hype that you've had. So it's a key point there. Know what your success criteria is and plan accordingly. Next, we've got a few tips from Vicky Whiter, who's the owner of Peter's Cleaners. They raised, again, a couple of years ago, 250k target, and they raised 326 in the end from 234 investors. And she describes crowdfunding as being essentially a huge marketing campaign. She says she was massively underprepared for the investment required in terms of time and money to get the campaign ready for Seedrs, and that's a really important point there. A lot of people think that crowdfunding is a quick way, quick and easy way of getting money, but it's not always the case. It can take a few months to really prepare to have a successful campaign. She says she wished she understood how much funding she should have had in place prior to going live, which is again coming back to the points that a couple of people have made earlier. The majority will come from your own network, and you do need fairly high percentages in order to show that traction, to show that that backing from your own community to launch a strongly validated campaign. And that's what will bring in the platform's crowd in overfunding, like Mike said earlier in his slides. Next, we've got a few bullets from Jasmine Wick-Stevens, founder of Faith. So this campaign, we worked with Jasmine a bit more recently, that funded in January this year, starting with a target of 150, ended up raising 165 from 256 investors. So the good thing about Jasmine actually is she has founder of two companies, Faith being one of them, which is a beauty brand, but she also has a marketing, comms and graphic design business on the side, who wears two hats. So she has lots of top tips to share in terms of marketing and PR specifically, and how she did it for them. So she said that LinkedIn is your best friend. She said she'd never really seen the value in LinkedIn previously, as I thought it was really a tool for people looking for new jobs, but it was a central part of our crowdfunding strategy. Now, anyone that's worked with us at ISQ would know that we really focus on LinkedIn and how powerful it is. So that's echoed by Jasmine's point here. And in terms of marketing, I think her last point here is really important. She says, think about your point of difference and what the unique story around your campaign is versus others. For example, if you're looking to get media coverage on your crowdfund, and you totally should, you'll have more success if you can make your story as to why you are crowdfunding sound more exciting than just we're raising money. We get a lot of clients who will try and put out press releases just saying, we're crowdfunding, look at us, aren't we great? You need to have more than that, more of a message, more of a point of difference. Lots of companies crowdfund all the time. That in itself isn't enough to get picked up. So she's saying, what do you stand for? What do you want to shine a light on? What is it that's so exciting about your raise? What makes you different? So you need to understand what that point of difference is, and really sell that unique story. He said, if you can't answer these questions well, you might get some really, if you can answer these questions, you might get some really good press interest and get your press release actually picked up. So for her, for example, with her Faith campaign, she focused really on women in business and how women crowdfunding and raising investments were quite underrepresented. And she got some really good press off the back of this campaign, which obviously helped them to reach their target. Now, a nice little campaign here, Coffee Apothecary, that we worked with Johnny a couple of years ago. They are a couple of cafes based in Scotland, just down the road from Brewdog, actually. Everybody knows Brewdog. They involved their community really well. So they had a really strong customer base, really loyal following. They obviously had some lead investment, but really focusing well on their wider community. So he shared that it will take way longer and be way more involved than you could ever imagine. And he sort of says, this is a nice one, once launched, it really is an emotional roller coaster of constant refreshing to see if anybody else has invested. I've had a lot of clients tell me this on catch-up calls as well, that it is a case of hitting that refresh button all the time just to see who's coming on board. But it's a positive thing. He says it's incredibly rewarding to get funding this way, especially for us as it's all our customers, and it really is. It makes the hard work more than worth it. So just to summarize then, just to bring all of those top tips into a nice slide here for you all. So number one, have a structure and process to follow. Super important. If you don't know what you're doing, you can't do it. That's key. And understand that it takes time. As mentioned, it's not a quick and easy route to funding. that time can be anywhere between 3 to 5 months or sometimes longer. Understand that you need to raise lead investment prior, and that the majority will come from your own network. Again, building on what Mike said earlier about those 3 pillars, the first 2, your lead investment community and your business community. Again, they're all people that you have access to. A no can be a good thing. Learn to iterate and improve your proposition. This is all about a positive feedback loop, trying to learn to make your proposition better, which will then help you to raise more investment. And if you can do that before you go live on the crowdfunding campaign, then that will help you launch a really strongly validated campaign once you open it to that third pillar, the platform's crowd. Marketing and comms and key to your success. Marketing is everything really for crowdfunding campaigns, and crowdfunding is itself a very public way to raise investment. And one of the benefits of crowdfunding is the marketing and the exposure that you get from that. So they're really key, they're so intertwined. Prepare as much collateral as possible in advance. Kind of links back to number 1 about having a process instructor to follow. Get everything done, know what you have to do, get it done, get it planned out. The last thing you want to do when you've got a live campaign is worrying about what you're going to post on social media that day, or not having the content and the copy drafted, because that does take time. But when you're managing a live campaign, you've got lots of other things to do, I can assure you. So prepare everything in advance, draft your social posts, create your social images, so they're all nice and ready to go on the day. And have a set list of criteria for success. Know when to close the doors. It might be that you want to close early, in which case you need to figure out when that point happens, as to what metrics you want to reach. What is your maximum overfunding target, but would you be happy to close the doors a little bit early if they kind of roll on the back of that success? Learn many business principles for use after the raise, like Jeff from Carcloud was saying. So there's lots of skills and tips of the trade that you'll be learning, especially from marketing and comms, about project management as well, that apply not just to crowdfunding, but in business in general. But understand, it's not all hard. It is hard work, but it is rewarding as well, and it's worth it. By the end of this, you will have hopefully a big list of investors that are committed to the business, and kind of bringing them on the journey with you, that you can then use to reach out to in advance in subsequent years. If you've got, I don't know, you want to launch a new product, you want to get some feedback from your customers list, you can use that investors list as well with your customers to reach out, get feedback on that, and get people's tips and obviously subsequent raises. If you're coming back for a second or third raise, you've got that community that you can build on already. So it is worth it and it is rewarding. Lovely. Well, that's all from me. I'll hand back over to Mike and any questions.
Awesome. Yeah, good time to do Q&A. Thank you for listening to us do our piece. Either probably best if someone can use the raise hand function, and we can push towards, whether it's either myself or Steph, or we'll probably both chip in as well. So floor is yours. It looks like Stephen's got his up, so I will go to Stephen. Hello.
Hi guys, can you hear me?
Yeah, nice and clear.
Okay, Stephanie, as you know, we've been talking for a good long time, well, not a long time, but a good few months, and with Richard as well. My problem has always been getting a core investor, which has been a major problem. Still is. I think I've got a great product, a great project. That's the main sticking point. Where do I go? That's still a main sticking point.
Yeah, happy to give some insight from a Seedrs perspective. Right now, lead investment's hard to come by. Like everyone's aware of the fact that markets are slow, and they've always been. Than they've often been. People are less happy to part with capital, even for particularly exciting and particularly interesting products and businesses. Where we've seen a bit of success here has been predominantly from the personal network, the private network of entrepreneurs. So what I mean by that is, through a nominee structure like Seedrs provides, we're able to group a lot of smaller tickets in order to make a larger ticket. Where this is really powerful is if, for example, and I know Steph mentioned this earlier, if, for example, we're looking for a lead or a cornerstone investment of 250k, no one's able to put, for example, no one's able to put that ticket in as a single amount, but if we can get 20, 30 investors at a ticket size of 5 to 10, then we're pretty close towards that already. So we're back to grouping, back to stacking chunks of investment together in order to get towards a larger target. On top of that as well, there are other routes to getting lead. A lot of that comes from what I touched on earlier, getting out to events. This is where I'm getting good feedback at the moment, is face-to-face meetings, if at all possible, at industry events, at sector-focused networking events, whatever it is, in order to try and drive a bit of that. But look, without sugarcoating it, like we all know that we're looking at relatively low percentage chances of conversion chances there, but that's where I've seen from the campaigns I've been working with a bit of success recently.
Okay, well, thanks very much. Just to let you know, we did apply for an Innovate Biomedical Catalyst grant. Unfortunately, we were just under the bar, not a lot, but we were just under a bar, which gave me appetite to come on to you today, obviously, but it gave me great thought process that we have got the right product, the right project. It just wasn't at that right time, you know, and it's such a long process with Innovate. It's you know, a 9-month hold your breath time, which you feel like if you're successful with it, great. If you're not, you've wasted 9 months basically.
Yeah, again, feedback I've heard more than once. I guess the thing and the kind of mindset that we tend to see that is quite successful is similar to, I can't remember which business it was earlier, but the no's can often be more useful. And the no's are very rarely flat no's. It's not right now. So it sounds like you said it that way anyway.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, the comments that we got back from the people that were adjudicating it were very positive. It just wasn't, it just did not get us over that line at that specific time. But, you know, from that, we've associated with AHSN, you know, Eastern AHSN, and I've got a number of meetings going forward with potential, hopefully, more clarity with people going forward. So yeah, you know, there's, as you say, no's become yeses in some respect.
Yeah, absolutely, awesome.
And the other thing that I would just add to that is that sometimes it's quite easy to reach out to VCs and angels and not have much luck. If they're people that you don't know, we find that the majority of the time lead investment will come through either your first or your second degree connections. So somebody that you know outright or somebody that you can be put in touch with. Which I guess the kind of building blocks of our program is that we help you to focus on your own community, really dig into the groups and the individuals in your network, the potential value of those people, and then creating a common plan about how to reach out to those individuals, how to get introductions to different people and expand your network to secure lead investment from somewhere sitting in your existing community.
Okay, what I'd like to do, Steph, if it's okay, I will send you on. We've just redone our
investor deck.
Yeah, we've just done our new deck, so maybe you could have a look at it and, you know,
sure,
point us in the right direction and see where we go from there.
No problem at all.
I'll do that after this meeting and just send it to you. Okay.
Lovely.
It'll be good for you to, you know, have your eyes on it and see if you think it's something that we should pursue or not.
Okay, absolutely, no problem.
Thank you very much.
Awesome. Any further questions? Oh,
hand there from Phil.
Hi Phil, give me a second to find the buttons. There we go. Hi Phil.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, there we go. Hi Phil.
Well, firstly, thank you very much. Very informative and thoroughly enjoyed the webinar. There was something on the right charge slide that just caught my attention, and I just want to ask what it actually is. What is direct investment?
Cool. Yeah,
Good
no,
question.
good question. You know what, another hole in my presentation skills. No, look, with a Seedrs raise, there's two ways of taking in capital. So we have the nominee structure, which is where we have the platform takes the payments from individual retail investors into Seedrs Nominee Limited, which then invests into the company as one name on the cap table. So nice, clean, managed process, nice, clean, managed administration on the back end as well. There are circumstances where perhaps a business might want to take an investor on directly, and we don't want to get in the way of that. So this is to use a specific case of Right Charge, as it was one of my campaigns. This was someone from within the electric vehicle space who wanted to put in a ticket size that was fairly hefty. I think it was in the region of 50k, potentially more. And they wanted to do a direct investment so they could be on the cap table, they could have the interaction with the CEO, Charlie, and add a bit more value than just the capital alone. So what we allow businesses to do is to have direct investment on or off that they're choosing. I nearly always recommend on, just in case you get one of these situations where someone can add more than the capital. And we can process and we can reflect the investment into the campaign whilst not managing it through the nominee structure. So that's the direct. A great question.
Right.
Does that make sense?
That makes absolute sense. Thanks for that. I just wanted to know that it could be carried forward to the campaign.
Yeah, exactly that. I think it's really powerful. It's one of those really good bits of added value that we can never promise. But when it comes off, like it's awesome to hear.
So it's effectively like a lead investor who has a real interest in the business and can add value and wants to really partake without being a direct, but an active shareholder, effectively.
Exactly that. Like I say, it's usually for when people think they can add a little bit more.
Sure.
Businesses can set the threshold from 25k up. So when we have a more established business, they might say that we'll leave it on, but the barrier to entry is going to be 100k. Or some businesses will keep it off if, for example, they're a Series A or getting towards Series B. They probably don't want to be adding individual names to the cap table. But as a general rule, particularly in the earlier rounds, like it's an awesome opportunity to potentially get someone that might be able to add, whether it's industry connections, whether it's past experience, as well as the capital. But like I say, it can be turned on or left off, depending on the business's needs.
Okay. Thank you very much.
No trouble. Any further questions at this point? Awesome.
Good, I think.
But from my perspective, just to wrap up, thank you everyone for putting up with me waffling on for a good period of time, and once again, thanks to Steph for her great input as always. If you haven't got any further questions, don't be afraid to follow up with either of us. I think contact details should be pretty easily available, but if not, we can get them out to you. Otherwise, thank you everyone for joining. I'll leave Steph to say her piece, and we'll go from there.
Cool. Yeah, echo that. Thanks everyone for joining. Nice to see you all and answer your questions. And yeah, be in touch soon.
Brilliant. Cheers, guys.
Thank you.
Bye.